Another piece in our Pacific art unit is the Malangan display and mask, and it is from the New Island province on the island of Papua New Guinea. So Malangan is a reference to rituals that honor the dead. They could also establish the identity of different clan groups. They could even be used to negotiate transmission of land rights. There are a lot of different possibilities during Malangan ritual. And these rituals, you prepare a long time for them, and they could be very expensive and could last anywhere up to a year. And in a lot of these that do deal with honoring the dead, you're basically doing this ritual and ceremony to help the dead transition to an afterlife. Um, and so you're honoring the deceased, but also aiding that spirit and energy into the afterlife. And what's really interesting about this particular type of art piece, it is used in this one occasion, even though the occasion might take place over a year. And then after it's used, it's destroyed. So you might, I think typically they would burn the masks, and the burning of the mask would symbolize rebirth and that new afterlife. If again you're using that to honor the dead. The second thing that's very important about this type of art is that when the piece is bought, from whoever made it, the seller of the art piece, the artist, surrenders any rights to the style. So if I buy a piece that looks a particular way, that style, those designs, the way the mask looks, cannot be made and sold again. So it's a unique piece of art just for me and that ritual that I'm going to have for my ancestor who passed away. So in that way, it has this economic kind of function, which I'll remind you of again at the end, because the artist continually has to make these masks. And the design, there's no two that are alike. And it is rarer then to have them in a museum because so often they are destroyed. So that's, again, another item that's very important is that the transaction and the uniqueness of the masks. And the ceremonies and these rituals, just to let you know, they'd involve feasting. I mean, this is why they're so expensive. You'd have performances, dancing, and that's why I have a image of people wearing the masks. And so the dancers might wear the mask during a performance to honor the deceased or establish identity or, again, whatever that particular ritual is that is being performed. Content. Mostly these are made of wood. So the main face is carved in wood, and then you'd paint it. So you've got pigment there too. Fiber, like plant life, that softer material is mostly in the more headdress that you see, and then shell as well. And a lot of times you're going to have references to animals within the art piece. Most common ones are fish and birds. And typically when there are animals referenced, that they would then express certain traits associated with that animal. And that would be associated then with the deceased. And then also colors. You'll see very specific colors, a lot of times red, yellow, or black. And the colors become symbolic of different ideas like war and the power associated with that, violence with war, and also magic. And again, since most of these Malagan masks are worn in these ceremonies to help the deceased get to an afterlife, that makes sense. And then to honor somebody who's powerful and important, or a clan identity that has that power and importance, it makes sense that colors then represent those more powerful ideas of war, magic, and violence. The faces typically will have then a fierce look about them, and this one definitely does. These are abstract representations of humans for the most part. And then again, the headdress is there for importance and power and significance there. And that's the part that's made of the fiber. I'm going to go back here for a moment. So these two images are your College Board images, and you can see then the mask itself, and then other times the mask will be included with other sculptural parts that might indicate a body, and that's what you're seeing on the left, and they would be displayed. And then the display and the mask would then be destroyed afterwards to keep the piece unique and to symbolize then this. Typically, if you know the ancestor going to the afterlife, the destruction of it would be that the ritual is complete, the act that you are trying to encourage and make happen is complete. The ancestor would be connected to the afterlife, and then your obligation to that ancestor would be complete as well. So again, that's the Malagan display and mask. Again, these two images on College Board. Function then would be ceremonial. You could also associate it with funeral, and has this social commentary aspect too, especially if you're using the Malagan mask to display identity and perhaps status of your belonging to and the power of the clan that you belong to. And I would say formal qualities then, you could do a number of things. Color, because colors are so symbolic within this art piece. I think that would work. Form is pretty typically similar with all the masks, but again, the form and the pattern, all those things that you could use for formal quality is unique to that mask. It will never be reproduced. It's like a fingerprint, really, for your identity or your clan and your ancestor. And again, once it's made, it will never again be copied. So that again is Malagan display and mask from Papua New Guinea.